That's where we start. We need to get started. Everybody be seated. A little after 3:30, we want to get started here. The Caddo Parish Commission work session for March 20, 2023 at 3:30 is now called to order. Mr. Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Hopkins. Here. Commissioner Johnson.
Present.
Commissioner Jackson.
Here.
Commissioner Young.
Here.
Commissioner Burrell.
Here.
Commissioner Jones. Commissioner Gage Watts. Commissioner Cothran.
Here.
Commissioner Atkins. Here. Commissioner Chavez.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Here.
And Commissioner Epperson.
Here.
All right, you have 11 of 12 members present. That does constitute a quorum.
Thank you. We'll have invocation today by Commissioner Cothran and our Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Chavez. If you would stand, please.
Let us pray. Today, my Heavenly Father, once again, we come thank you for this occasion. We ask you, my Heavenly Father, to get in ahead and stay in ahead of us, that we might get out of your way, my Heavenly Father, that you can have your way. Bless each man, woman, boy, and girl that's in this city, in this parish, in this state, my Heavenly Father, that we might be able to do your will. Bless us, my Heavenly Father, we try to make decisions to the best of our abilities, and you allow the wisdom to come and bestow upon each and every one of us. These are the best acts in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
If everybody would remain standing and face our flag, military veterans may render the hand-to-brow salute. Everybody else place your right hand over your heart. Let's be mindful of our military and POWs missing in action. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Cothran and Commissioner Chavez. Mr. Clerk.
I'm not aware of any agenda additions today, unless you have any.
No, I don't see any, and I don't think there's been any indication of any agenda additions. That takes us to citizen comment. I don't have any before me as of yet. Mr. Clerk, we don't have any.
I have not received any at the moment that I got up to pass out that last paper, but I will. Oh, it looks like there are no citizen comments in the box right now.
Okay, we're down to visitors.
Okay, and we have no scheduled visitors today. So that brings us to reports, where you do have an administrative report. It's attached on your agenda, and it also includes February financials, a hard copy of which you should find at your desks as well.
We want to welcome our administrator back today. Glad to see him here, all chipper and hopefully in good health. Do you have an administrative report that you want to give?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
First of all, I'd like to thank all the commissioners who reached out to me on text or whatever concerning my health. I appreciate it. I had to get some repair done on my earth suit so I could function a little bit better while I'm still here. But thank you all for your prayer and concern. I appreciate it. And I'd also like to extend my sincere appreciation to my able-bodied assistant parish administrator who done a yeoman's job. I had no doubt that she did a good job for you all. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. We do have a few things today, Commissioner Burrell. First of all, I'd like to invite a guest for some brief comments, and Mr. Russell Soppy from the Emergent Enforcement Solutions Company. And he's going to come forward and kind of give us an idea that we've been toying around with. So at this time, I'll just yield to the floor with Mr. Soppy.
Well, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome, Mr. Sarsi. If you would, state your name for the records.
Yes, sir. My name is Russell Sarpy. I'm the owner of Emergent Enforcement Solution. It's a Louisiana-based company, actually based out of Caddo Parish. My company provides an automated traffic enforcement monitoring and enforcement solution. It is different from the traditional systems that you guys might be familiar with, like what's going on here in Shreveport with the 100% automated poll systems. Our systems employ officers that use a handheld manned device system that goes to specific locations that are populated in our system and provides those speeding violations to be docked into the system. It's a much more efficient way of doing a automated transmission of data that's not 100% automated. We've been doing this for about 2.5 years now. We've partnered with some key entities like LSUS University. The North Louisiana Crime Lab is where our office is based out of. Datamax, which is the state switch connection for the state of Louisiana that provides the DMV NCIC queries to law enforcement officers. And so we've also partnered with Stalker and Custom Signals. Both of these two companies provide the handheld devices that allows our system to be automated. And when I say automated, when I mean automated is the difference between that and a traditional traffic stop is it does away with a traffic stop. So our system allows the ability to monitor and capture violations without actually engaging with the occupants of the vehicle. So it's safer for the police department, safer for the citizens, and there's less complaints and less lawsuits dealing with traditional traffic stops. That's pretty much it. Our system is deployed based on the parish ordinance that you guys craft, and that we specifically program the system to adhere to what's in the ordinance, to include being able to utilize sworn officers that are from the parish of Caddo Parish. You know, that gives you the authority to use those individual officers that are from the parish. So that's kind of a high-level, quick summary. I could talk 3 hours
No, we don't want you to do that, Mr. Sarsi.
Yeah. So that's just a high-level summary of what the services provide. We're one of we are the only company in the state of Louisiana that provides these services that I'm providing, and I know we're the only company in Caddo Parish that's doing these type of services. And we're not a revenue share model company. We have a fixed pricing model per citation, and we only collect revenue on that fixed citation model based on the revenues that are collected weekly from the system. So in other words, we don't get paid unless you get paid. And so with saying that, we provide all the hardware, the software, we provide all the training to the officers that are on the system, and we don't charge for that service at all. So.
Okay, thank you. We have a couple of comments, I assume, here. Commissioner Epperson?
I want to address the administration.
Oh, okay.
I'll wait until he.
Okay, does anybody have any questions here, because we're not public comments, it's an administrative report. Commissioner Hopkins?
My question is, if one of these stops are made, the ticket is written, well, the ticket's sent to the person, whoever, how do they determine whether it was that person driving, because it's done off a license plate, correct?
That's correct.
So how do you determine the driver is really the one that got the ticket?
First of all, it's a civil ordinance.
Okay.
Second of all, the ordinance indicates that the registered owner is the responsible party for the vehicle. Now, there are circumstances where husband and wife divorce, the vehicle is being driven by the wife, but it's actually in the husband's name. There's transfer of liabilities that go with this, and each individual person can have their day in court to contest or, explain to the court there's particular circumstances regarding the citation. So,
Okay, so those tickets you'll have to go to court. It's not just an automatic payment they'll have to send in.
that is correct.
They will go to the Caddo Parish District Court.
However you guys set it up, yes, sir. Whatever you guys set it up, our system adheres to how it is set up and defined in the ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Sarp? Okay, Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Sharpie, on the cameras, do the cameras have any type of special recognition, like with license plates? So say if the car might be stolen or the car might have outstanding speeding tickets, is there some way that those cameras or intelligent cameras that can then ping that individual and that person?
Great question. So not only are we employing a traffic monitoring and enforcement solution, but we're also providing the system as a crime fighting tool. So the cameras are connected to, the camera has LPR built into the camera, and that's connected to a state database. The database is for state bolos. So anytime any person is using the cameras, whether it's law enforcement or our staffing officers that are employed to go out and use the cameras, anytime a stolen vehicle or any vehicle that's on the state bolo is captured on that camera, whether it's a video violation or not, it triggers a state bolo notification to law enforcement. So we could even have the sheriff's department personnel, local municipal authorities, if we're working in close proximity, like Oil City, for an example, we may be working in the unincorporated areas of the parish, but because they're in close proximity of us, they could receive the state bolo notification that we received while doing traffic enforcement in the unincorporated areas. So that is a huge benefit to have LPR deployed randomly just throughout the whole parish.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah, I did. I was on the board also.
Okay, Commissioner Gage Watts, and then back to you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Sorpy, for the presentation. Commissioner Johnson asked a portion of my question of how can this be used as a different tool for us, or an additional tool for our law enforcement, as well as to address those crime issues. And you talked about that it could be used to identify those who have maybe outstanding warrants or, seem to be a problem, that LPR would identify them. In addition to that, I wanted to ask if there are any barriers that you know of for us.
With our system?
Yes.
No, ma'am. And just speaking, the barriers that I see are usually political, not anything to do with legal substance in regard as a barrier to it. It's just a personal preference to the individuals that make up the government to decide that this is, well, I don't know if this is something we're interested in doing or not. That would be the only barriers. The equipment is 100% sound. It's LiDAR, not radar. It pinpoints exactly which vehicle is speeding. You set the thresholds, whether it be 10 over, 11 over, 12 over the posted speed limit. There is no pinch points because it's not a 100% automated system. And by explaining that is that we put human beings to actually process the information once it comes from the gun. So we hire people to run the DMV queries to validate this is a blue Ford F-150 and the registration belongs to a blue Ford F-150. So we go the extra measure with that, and the other extra measure is putting a officer out there to actually do the enforcement. Those are your two major pinch points when it comes to complaints or deficiencies within the system. So we basically have those covered.
Great. And you said these are actual photos, or are they videos?
They're video that we capture still shot images. So the technology that we use in both guns, I think Stalker is even a little bit higher level, but it's like 25 to 30 frames per second of still images that come from a video. So it's the latest, greatest thing. Speaking of that, I just want to add one other thing. I was speaking to a high-ranking individual just last weekend that had data that Caddo Parish is, I'm not going to say the highest, but one of the highest parishes in the state for vehicle fatalities throughout the whole state.
Wow.
So the speed study that we done in the unincorporated areas of Bethany, Louisiana, showed that 54% of all the vehicles that were coming through that area were doing excessive speeding 10 or above the posted speed limit. And that's just one particular area. So 54% is a high percentage, and actually the highest percentage that we ever got on a speed study that we've personally done.
That's staggering. Thank you so much, Mr. Sorby. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, Commissioner Hopkins.
So do you have a team that you work with, or is this like a one-man show deal with your company?
No, we have employees that we contract hire with that are officers. We have a team of a programming team, which is at LSUS University, and then we have a team of the two companies that I mentioned to you that provide us the equipment to be able to issue to the officers to go out and do enforcement. So we do have a team of individuals that are ready to bring on customers, like Caddo, if Caddo wants to come on.
Okay. That's it for now.
And I just want to add something else to that. That's another key component about our company, especially me being from this geographical area of North Louisiana. Part of what we do for the municipality, and I think this is a huge benefit for every law enforcement agency in Caddo Parish, is a retention program, right? To be able to recruit officers from Oil City, from Greenwood, from Vivian, right, that can pay them $30 to $40 an hour, that's a retention program. So it's not very difficult for me to go out and recruit officers to come work and do traffic enforcement in this, especially because they're not having to do a traffic stop, right? They're manning a piece of equipment that's then being ingested into the database that we have. So I just felt that it was important to say that.
Anyone else? I do have a couple of questions after Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, thank you again. Are there any upfront costs for the parish if we was to get them on board on this program?
No, sir. And what I recommend, because I do believe that we're an on-ramp type system to fixed poles. I'm not saying that I totally disagree with fixed poles like what the city of Shreveport is doing. The technology is good technology if it's deployed properly. but we're an on-ramp, meaning a measurement to determine where you might need to put fixed poles just in case we can't reduce that type of speeding in that geographical area. So we don't have any upfront costs, and I recommend doing like a 90-day piloting of the technology, right? I'm not here to try to lock anybody into a 2-year, 3-year, 4-year contract. I'm saying explore the technology, do it on a 90-day period, and then if you're satisfied, let's move towards a 12-month contract, because now we're having to recruit and put resources out in the parish, but we're not going to charge for any of that. We get paid when the speeders pay their citations.
Okay, that's all I had.
Okay, well, I guess the last comment that, oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. I had a question for the administration, but Mr. Sharpie prompted me on a question when Commissioner Hopkins made an inquiry. Sir, when you said you guys hire police officers, are you hiring a uniformed officer in a marked car to then go use the cameras?
No, sir. We're contract hiring with officers that are post-certified, and then we send them to geographical locations throughout the state that we have contracts with. In this case, if you're referring specifically to Caddo Parish, we would hire people based on what's in the ordinance, right? So if your ordinance is giving the authority within the ordinance to contract with us to hire from officers within the parish, then that's what we would do. We would hire officers, contract hire officers within Caddo Parish.
What would that look like? And I guess, sorry for my lack or my ignorance in this scenario. Is it a ununiformed officer standing out there on the road with a camera in their own POV?
Yeah, it could be that way, or it could be whatever you guys deem to be necessary for the ordinance. So, but yes, throughout the whole state, we have unmarked units and plainclothes individuals that are post-certified officers manning the camera system.
So they don't actually do any traffic enforcement. They just merely gather the data.
That is correct.
Okay, I understand.
That is correct. Yeah, this is a no contact whatsoever. This is a civil citation. Doesn't go against points against your insurance, your driving record, or anything like that. It is a civil citation that requires no interaction with the law enforcement officer and the public.
I understand. Thank you, President. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, let me get these lined up, because there's some commissioners who want to talk to the administrator, and there's others who want to talk to Mr. Sarpy. So from what I can see here on my screen, I have Jackson, Carlton, Atkins. Now, which one is to go to Mr. Sarpy?
Sarpy?
Well, you know,
Okay, so-
can I get a point of order, a point of clarification? I know that this was a presentation, but it's almost as if we've gotten into I don't know, maybe I'm just confused, because it seems like we are taking up this item when I just thought that this was going to be some introduction, and we've gotten way down into the weeds on this. I just thought this was administrative report, so I don't know.
Well, initially, I felt that way too, but at the same time, I'm always going to give the commissioner the opportunity to ask questions if
Okay.
necessary.
Okay, well, I'll remove mine, because mine was for administration, but it just
Okay.
seems like, I don't know if we're gonna even have any discussion when we get to the item on the agenda, but
Okay. Well, let me do this. Let me get through.
this is your meeting, so I'm gonna follow your lead.
Thank you. I appreciate
Mr.
it.
Chairman, I'm happy to Commissioner Jackson's point, I'm happy to wait till this item comes to the agenda if it's easier.
That'll be fine. Ms. Carlton, same? Okay, if that's the case, then, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Commissioner Epperson.
Yes, sir. Dr. Wilson, glad to see you back. Ms. Bryant did an excellent job, and I've already broken me in pretty good this morning. I called him twice, preached to him hard and heavy, and I told him if I was in person, I'd take my hat off and pass the collection plate. And I know Ms. Bryant probably glad to see him back, but after I got through with him this morning, he might want to take another lead. But glad to see you back, Dr. Wilson. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Commissioner Carlton.
Commissioner Burrell, I still need to, if you don't mind,
Yes, sir.
continue with my comments, then I'll be briefing out the way.
Sure.
Okay. Commissioners, you should have to station a the community forums for NDC will be conducting information gathering on housing needs for our citizens. They'll have 6 different meetings throughout the parish. Also, the summer employment program is going to start pretty soon. April 2nd is when we start taking applications for summer employment program. So please be mindful. I mean, you all have considerations that you all like to suggest by way of employment for young people in your districts. Please encourage them to go to online. It will be available online so they can apply for it, and we will go through the process with them. But that'll be starting, getting ready in anticipation for summer is coming. Also, in juvenile detention, we have 25 children. 9 of them are 17-year-olds. We have 8 awaiting OJJ transportation, and we have 13 at CCC. Okay, the next thing, COVID responses. We have no report of any COVID cases internally or externally in any organizations that the parish is associated with. And last but not least, you should have the February financial report at your stations. And that being said, that concludes my comments today, sir, unless you have any questions for me.
I think we still have a few questions for you, Commissioner Jackson.
Yes. Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Wilson, I'll echo Commissioner Epperson's comments, as well as I'm sure others feel is I think you left the parish in capable hands with Ms. Bryant.
I think
you should be glad that we're not old church deacons up here, because I'm told that back in the day they've been to voted you out.
Well, that'd be fine.
By leaving that alone. I heard that's what happened at First Baptist Cedar Grove. Is the preacher went out of town to preach revival back in the day, came back and the church had voted him out. So
please feel free to send me home early. I appreciate that.
So, but we were in good hands, and
yes,
I want her to hear that at least from me, and hopefully the others here on the record. So
I couldn't agree more, sir.
So
she's very capable.
Well, feel free to take out again if you need to. I'm just leaving that on vacation, I guess. But
Okay.
On the housing forums, glad we're getting these up and going. The one for Valencia Park, I do think we might need to, I don't know if we're putting this out publicly yet, but I would like to emphasize the one on April 13th. I would like to let it be known that this is for several different areas. It's not just Stoner Hill, it's Stoner Hill, Lakeside, Allendale, and Cherokee Park. I think that might need to be noted on the forum. Simply because you can't get to everywhere, and like some of these places that are in close proximities to others, you may want to say, hey, this is for these areas. That way nobody will say my area got left out. But I would like to see for the one in on April 13th, that it be for
Cherokee Park,
Lakeside, Allendale, Cherokee Park, and Stony Hill. That way all of those interest groups will know to come to that particular meeting with them at that time. And juvenile, on the juvenile issue, can we get some clarity with those 25, those that are at, all of those are not at CCC, is that correct?
No. We have 25 actually in the detention center and 13 at CCC.
Okay. That's what I was trying to make sure that I heard right. So we have, but those 13 are not are they in our custody or under our supervision?
In our custody.
No, they're not. They're not our custody or supervision.
Okay, so they're not in our custody and under our supervision. Those are under the sheriff's supervision, those 13 is my understanding.
Yes, for CCC?
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yes,
so,
that's correct.
but they're juveniles.
Yes, sir.
Right, okay, so
because of the situation.
But we have 25 that we are responsible for.
sir.
That's what I wanted to make sure that we're clear on. So we only have 25 individuals that we're responsible for, and those other 13 are physically at CCC under responsibility of the sheriff.
That's correct.
And okay, all right. Just wanted to make sure that we were clear on that, because I know the lines can get blurred on that particular situation. That's it for me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. President.
Okay, that takes us then to Commissioner Cawthorn. Okay, take him off then. Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Wilson,
Yes, sir.
if we've got 20, I thought there were 24 beds at juvenile services. And if so, how do we have 25 people?
Well, we have
Mr.
one,
Randall.
let have Randall come in and answer that question.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So we actually have 24 beds, 3 pods consisting of 8. We actually have 2 seclusion pods that are designed for when there are medical issues or a need to seclude a resident. So there are 2. So our absolute capacity is 26, but 24 is actually our in terms of the normal pod setup.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, Commissioner Gage Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President. Welcome back,
Yeah,
Dr. Wilson.
thank you,
So
ma'am.
glad to see that prayer still works.
Appreciate it.
You left us in great hands, so we're glad to see you back, and that door is open anytime you need to leave. You know you got
Thank
the
you,
right
ma'am.
people on your
Appreciate it.
staff. I had a question about the tornado sirens, but before I start that, I wanted to ask if, I know we've always asked under your report, the visitors that come up, if we needed to suspend the rules to ask questions to anyone that comes up under your report, and that would be for Attorney Frazier.
Commissioner, I've not noticed that you do that during the report.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, because I know we've always asked that. And so the second part of my question is, where are we on the tornado sirens?
Ms. Reigns. Commissioner Stormy Gage, what I think we ought to do, we have money in the budget for a feasibility study. And I think Eric and I was talking about this morning, and we need to engage the 911 center in a discussion and Homeland Security. We all need to sit down, because if the parish chooses to go forth and install the system, we will not be the operators. So I think right now, weather alerts come through Homeland Security, and 911 center will definitely be punching the button to ask what area to alert people in. So we have to engage them in a discussion. I think that needs to take place, and also go forward with the feasibility study. We have the cost estimates right now to what the project would cost, short of knowing the price of the land. But I think it's incumbent on us to bring those players in who will be involved with it, to get their inputs before we go forward, and also to seek the will of the board collectively to secure the funds to do the project.
Okay, so here's where I am. I know that we had a life that was lost because they didn't have service in that area. Their phone wasn't working, so we can take that into consideration also.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't want to continue to lose lives waiting on a feasibility study,
Right.
waiting on the city of Shreveport, the poles attaching.
Right.
We're going back and forth with it, and we've been
Right.
kind of on this path for the last 3 years.
Yeah, that's
So as soon as possible, I would like to engage in those conversations
Okay.
and start the process and moving forward.
Yes, ma'am. We'll set those up.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. But Commissioner Gage Watts, we did have a pretty good talk with the folks over at the city IT department, but things has changed somewhat, and we can't rely on that anymore.
Inevitably,
Yes,
we
ma'am.
expected that.
Right.
Thank you. That's it, Mr. President.
Okay, Commissioner Young.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to add, Dr. Wilson,
Yes, sir.
can you, for the Valencia Park meeting for this housing forum, could you also help spread that information to the Highland neighborhood so that they can participate in that conversation too? It's pretty close to Highland, and I know there's probably some housing needs that people want to express there. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Wilson, glad to see you back.
Thank you, sir.
You did leave everything in good hands with Ms. Bryant. Want to ask the question, where are we with the garden at the courthouse? The garden at the courthouse.
We have to regroup on that, because we decided that we had to scale back on the video presentation. It had become voluminous in terms of size and costs. So we had to scale that back somewhat because we had to do several things over there. The ORC codes reader was one of the things we wanted to do, put a plaque in and do the garden. The money's still there, but we just needed to decide to what degree we're gonna have the informational piece. The other stuff is pretty easy to do, but the informational piece, we have to decide that, because I think we gotta scale back
Well,
what we intended to use to do.
I understand that part about the video and the QR reader, but we're in spring. Today is the first day of spring. So if we don't start talking about this now,
Yes, sir.
it'd be summertime and stuff be burning up.
Yeah,
So
I got you.
I know how to give the lead, so
Okay.
it takes a little while to get to that, but I just wanted to make sure. I know we weren't gonna do it in the wintertime, but now today is the first day of spring, and we ought to
Okay.
be thinking about how we're gonna be doing that garden and what days we need to be planting
Okay.
those flowers.
Okay, I'll visit with my team, Commissioner Johnson, and give you an update tomorrow. But I think, because we've been talking to a landscape architect already preliminarily, so just matter of putting that in, determining what size and cost, and then getting the plaque fabricated, and then how will we install that, and then go to the last piece. So I think we have $150,000 on that project, if I'm not mistaken. So we're just trying to stay within the boundaries of that, or either we'll come back next year for more money if we couldn't get it done any cheaper than that. Am I right on the
Okay, I
price?
think it's 75,000.
Is it 75?
Yes.
I think it got skinny down.
Okay. I
Yeah,
said to be corrected,
it
it's
got chopped
75.
down some, so it's 75,000. So the video part is the part that's basically was eating up most of the money. But I do want to make sure that we go ahead and move out with the garden and the plaque.
Okay. Okay, we'll do that.
And then my second one is, you mentioned that the summer employment will be starting April the 2nd, and everything will be online.
I believe so.
Yes, sir. We'll start the application process as we did before with April 2nd. I think if it was anyone that had an issue, if you communicate to us, we'll work with them to get the information in. But we have to obtain that information electronically. But we can work with anyone if they have an issue to get the information in.
Do we know the number of students we'll be able to employ this summer?
I think we're looking at about 48.
So is this the intern program and the regular summer work program, or is this separate still?
Well, right now, you all have an item on your agenda to add to the amount, and that would incorporate the intern program that we work with Goodwill through.
We're good.
Okay. And how many jobs would that create, approximately?
The 50,000 that you have on your agenda, I think we said about, it could be from 8 to 10. It just depends on the pay range and what else we determine for that position.
Okay.
Those positions.
All right, thank you. I'm done.
You got a question, sir?
Okay. Well, finally, Dr. Wilson, we want to again welcome you back and see you in good health. I want to also commend our assistant administrator. It was quite refreshing to get return calls after hours, where we didn't have to wait till the next day to get a response, especially on important issues. But we're not going to make that a habit either. I assure you. But it was great to get somebody after hours. I guess this can go to you because the administrator is having a sidebar.
Dr. Wilson.
Sorry
I would
about
like
that.
to get an update on, well, you missed my accolades to you, so we'll go to the next.
I'm sorry about that. Just trying to take care of something.
Update on the broadband. We haven't heard anything from the companies, nor has the company that made the presentation at the Chamber of Commerce sent anything to us, which I requested. I think I requested that probably a month or so ago through you.
Yes, sir.
And I still haven't received that because I wanted to present it to the broadband committee, but it seems
Yes,
like
sir.
you're not responding to us for whatever reason.
Yes, sir. I was asked about that earlier today, Commissioner Burrell, and my response was I'll do what I'll go ahead and do and invite them to come before us and give an update on the two companies that received grants to see where they are and to tell us, how they're progressing and what's their future plan for expansion beyond what they're going to do. So we will endeavor to invite those folks who got the grant to cover up Caddo Parish to come and talk to us about it. Then we'll know what's going on, where they at with the program.
Well, at least we got something from the cable companies, but AT&T is the other one that has the grant, isn't it?
I don't think it was AT&T. It was
Okay.
Comcast and another company. Now, AT&T may be applying, but I
Okay,
don't-
you know, they came and made a presentation
Yes,
to
sir,
us
yeah,
earlier.
right. But I don't know if they actually got a grant. I'm
Okay,
not sure
and
on
that second company we haven't heard from at all.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
Comcast, we did. Whoever this other company is, I
Right.
have not
Yeah.
heard from them.
Well, we'll try to have them come here because I think we have the contact information, and then at least they can kind of tell us what their big plans are in terms of once they finish this, because they're going to be a second round of Gumbo grant type of initiative, so they may be doing a phase 2.
Well,
And I
we don't
think-
even know anything about the phase 1.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we will get them here because that phase 1 was a part of their grant submittal. But we want them to come here and talk to the technical aspect of what they're going to do to us, so we won't have to read through their verbiage and not know what they're trying to do.
Okay. All right, well, I appreciate that. If there's no other comments, Mr. Clerk?
Okay, that brings us to commission remarks, communiques, reports, and other items related to the work session agenda.
I'm sorry, I missed that. We are at Commissioner's remarks, right? Okay. Any other remarks from the commission? Okay. Oh, Commissioner Epperson.
Yes, sir. Sunday, March the 19th marked the 20-year anniversary of the United States of America and coalition forces invaded Iraq. The cost of that war was 4,480 U.S. deaths, 32,000 wounded, 100,000 Iraqi civilians died. $806 billion was spent on that war. Also, thousands of troops with illnesses believed to be caused by the burn pits. Also, this caused a congressional act to be put in place called the PACT Act to be passed. And what this did was this allowed veterans and military and civilian personnel that served in these theaters where they burned unused ordinances, jet fuel, and other things that caused a lot of illnesses. So I would ask that each and every one of you would Google PACT, P-A-C-T, ACT, and please spread that information to all military and veterans, because it does go back even into the Vietnam era, where it enhances the probability of veterans getting benefits relative to Agent Orange and other things that happen in those theaters also. So let's please do that and make sure we get that information out to all of our military and our veterans. And basically in 2001, when 911 came, that got us into Afghanistan, and we know that was from 2001 to 2021, 20 years, the Afghanistan war. $757.8 billion, 2,456 casualties, military, civilians 1,822, wounded 20,713, and CIA undercover operative 18 deaths. So we want to make sure that we remember those. And the total cost of the 20 years in Afghanistan was $2.313 trillion. $2.313 trillion. And of course we know that we are divided as a nation from Washington, D.C. to Baton Rouge down to these chambers. But please do not listen to these purveyors of propaganda as it relates to how we got out of Afghanistan, how we got out of Vietnam, how we got out of Iraq. When they come up to you with these negative connotations about how we did things in the wars, ask them, did you volunteer? Did your son or your daughter volunteer? Did your son or your daughter lose their lives? Did your son or your daughter receive wounds? These are the things that we must ask. War is not glorious. And the ones that always want to armchair quarterback. They're the ones that haven't even been a Boy Scout. So let's make sure we don't fall for these things that further divide our nation. Upon tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., we will host Rear Admiral Dion English in the chambers. It'll be our Veterans Affairs and Services Committee meeting, and I would ask that all of our members be present that can be present. I'd like to serve notice to ask Dr. Wilson if he would render the invocation tomorrow, and Commissioner Carter if he would render the Pledge of Allegiance during that ceremony. So let's show up, make sure we have large numbers, because this is going to be the beginning of U.S. Navy Week. Caddo, Parish, Shreveport, and Bossier was one of 15 cities out of the United States of America that was selected to host United States Navy Week and have a visit. And Rear Admiral English has ties here. I think he's a classmate of Attorney Frazier, am I correct?
That's correct.
And a graduate of Southern University. So let's make sure that we show up and give our support and on behalf of him and the things that the Navy. They're also here in conjunction with the Blue Angels. You know, we're going to be hosting the air show at Barksdale. So they help set up those things. There's going to be a lot of valuable information. So we're looking forward to seeing all of you tomorrow in reference to that. Also, resolution number 6, which was put on the Police Jury Association's agenda from the floor, that came through our Public Service Committee relative to funding the Northwest Louisiana Crime Lab. It did pass with the Police Jury Association unanimously. Of course, they amended it and they said that not only fund the Northwest Louisiana Crime Lab, but any other crime lab in the state of Louisiana. So we got no problem with that. But they say the sum of many is greater than the sum of a few. So we wanted to let you know that. Also, Mr. Clerk, I noticed on the old business, I was wondering, you know, we had wanted to recognize Colonel retired from the United States Army, Parish Davis. He's also a Southern University grad, and he was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor about 50-something years late. And we want to, I'd like to add him, advance him to our April 6th meeting to recognize that. I saw that was missing from the agenda today. Thank you all very much.
Commissioner Gage Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to announce to the commissioners that Ochsner LSU Health will hold its 2nd annual STEM Pathfinder Summer Program, and I am taking applications through April 7th. If you are interested in getting the application, contact me, and the citizens can as well. It's for students who are 8th through 10th grade who will be at least 14 by the beginning of the program. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? I don't see anybody else on the board. I can just do mine in President's report.
All right, did you have a President's report today?
I just have a couple of things here. I just wanted to recognize the work that the citizens of Queensboro and surrounding areas, they came in big fashion to our Queensboro cleanup. We cleaned up 2/3 of the community over there, and let me tell you, it was terrible. It was tough. But they stayed there. We had nearly 100 volunteers on Saturday. So you missed a treat. We had food trucks and also a barbecue. People just came out and we had a great time. We had a number of different sponsors, which I couldn't name at this point. But there's a citizen who's out in the audience, or was out in the audience, Joshua Hanson. I don't know if he's still here with the Realtors. They stepped up in a big way to help us out there, although they don't live in the community. So again, I want to recognize him. The second thing is we was talking about the company that deployed broadband. The second company that Dr. Wilson is, I believe, is CSC. I'm not sure what that represents, but the clerk said it was the company's name, CSC. So whatever that acronym is, I guess you need to find that out.
I believe they're the holding company that name brand sometimes uses Cablevision. but we may know them as
Okay.
Cablevision, but CSC is the holding
So it's
company.
two cable companies, Comcast and CSC being a cable company.
Those were the two that were awarded Gumbo grants.
Okay. That ends my report. Mr. Clerk?
Okay, we have no scheduled old business today. I did want to note and thank Commissioner Epperson for reminding us we will have that item on the April 6th agenda. And then that brings us to new business. The first item under new business today is advancing the introduction of ordinance number 6317 of 2023. That's an ordinance amending the budget of estimated revenues and expenditures for the oil and gas fund to appropriate funds for a Caddo Community Lighthouse pilot project and otherwise provide with respect thereto. This comes from the Long Range Committee.
Okay, we have a motion
So moved.
by Commissioner Johnson and a second by Commissioner Steve Jackson. Commissioner Johnson, you have a comment?
No, I'll wait till the day we vote on.
Commissioner Atkins?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just comment briefly that although I think this is a very admirable goal and a worthy project, I'm concerned about the amount of the cost of the project, given the hopefully the very little use, the low utilization of the project. We'll be putting what, $1 million into, well, not just us, but maybe it's $1 million project, and hopefully it'll only be used a couple of times every few years. So it's just a utilization concern I have. Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Hopkins?
Yeah, I'm gonna vote to move it forward, but I do have questions on this. I have had a little bit of heartburn on the amount of money and exactly what we're doing. I know I sat in that committee meeting, but I just don't feel comfortable. But I am gonna vote to move it forward today, but I can't guarantee a vote when it comes up in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson?
Thank you, Mr. President. I thought this was supposed to come out of Reserve Trust Fund. How did it end up, how did it end up in oil and gas? I thought the motion was to take it from Reserve Trust.
At the meeting, it said, the information, it said for administration to research and determine the fund that it should come out of, because we had concerns about the Reserve Trust Fund based on the purposes. And so the motion we got said for administration to make a determination.
I don't know, that's how I remember that.
That was what our records reflect as well.
That's what the recording reflect?
Mm-hmm.
Recording, not the minute, not what's written down.
Mm-hmm.
Send me a copy of that.
Okay.
'Cause I just know that I thought that my motion was to take this from Reserve Trust. This is a lot coming out of oil and gas.
Okay, I'll assume that they'll research that for you,
Yeah.
Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President.
If there's no other, Commissioner Epperson.
Madam Administrator, the Reserve Trust Fund, don't we pull out that under dire circumstances and require 8 votes?
Yes, it's 8 votes for an extraordinary economic development, a major natural disaster, and one other category. And so when we were in the meeting, we communicated that we didn't think that this fit the categories established by the commission through ordinance, and that we could recommend. There was a motion to do reserve trust, and we expressed that we'd like to look at another fund. And we have looked at the funds in the oil and gas fund, and it will still have a decent balance in that fund, even if you use these monies.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. I'd like to make a motion to send this back to long-range planning. If I can get a second, I'll expand on it. Thank you, Commissioner. I agree with Commissioner Jackson. When we were in that meeting, we were discussing the reserve trust fund. I think this is going to totally wipe out the budget on the oil and gas. And then we have some reservations for some commissioners around this horseshoe. So I think going back to the long range to discuss this some more and get the verbiage before it comes back to the full body would probably be advantageous to everybody at this horseshoe. So I'd like to see for that. Thank you, President.
Okay, Commissioner Jackson, are you back up? Well, look like
Yes, sir. I'm not quite at the point to where I'm ready to send this back to committee again, but if we're saying that this is for natural disasters, the only way this would come into use would be the result of a natural disaster. And so I'm just trying to, I don't think it needs to go back to committee, at least from my perspective. Some others may feel that way, but I just feel like that's what the reserve trust fund is, that natural disaster would trigger these hubs. If I understood the presentation right, is when a disaster happens and people are without water and electricity, that's when these hubs they kick in for use and utilization. And so that's how I arrived at the reserve trust. And so I don't know, it's just interesting.
Okay, it appears that we have a substitute. What says amended motion, but it's a substitute. Mr. Clerk, is that an amended motion or a substitute?
Substitute.
Okay, it appears to be a substitute motion by Commissioner Mario Chavez and second by Commissioner Carlton. You weren't retracting that, were you? Okay. All right. There is a motion and a second. Mr. Clerk, we can vote.
Mr. President, I was on the board. And
Okay, well, all of it's gone off now, so.
Okay, well,
Commissioner Gage Wise.
okay, thank you. I had the exact same sentiments as Commissioner Jackson to ask if this was not already considered a natural disaster, emergency preparedness, if the funds that we're requesting could not be moved out of our reserve trust fund because it seems that it fits the criteria.
Well,
Okay?
can I say? Well, the criteria says that in the event of a catastrophic natural disaster, at this time, we don't have a natural disaster. So we can't appropriate for the case of, it's at the time. If you have a major natural disaster, at that time, you can use these funds to appropriate dollars. Right now, we don't have such an occasion. It's not when you, for the future, is at the time, so that if you have, one I can remember was when Hurricane Katrina hit, and there were many entities that couldn't make payroll, couldn't provide certain expenses. At that time, if we were in that situation, we could go to this fund and make an emergency appropriation to take dollars to cover that. Right now, you're asking for an expenditure for something in case of and it may not be a catastrophic natural disaster. You just might have a bad rainstorm and the lights are out and this facility can be used. Just in our opinion, when you all gave to administration to determine which fund we thought was where it better fit, we felt like the oil and gas fund was a better fit. Also, yes, you do have to get 8 votes of the reserve trust fund, but we thought the oil and gas fund was a better fit. And we did analyze those funds. The fund would still have a decent balance in the fund to appropriate for additional expenditures if you all so desire.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Epperson.
Call for the question on the motions.
Second.
Okay, it's been called, a question has been called. Are there any other comments? If not, we can vote on call for the question. Mr. Clerk, you can vote.
Okay, that motion carries. So now the motion before you is the one that was previously before you, which is that substitute motion.
To send it back to committee.
To send it back to committee from Commissioner Chavez, seconded by Commissioner Cawthorn.
Okay, let's vote.
And that looks like it passes with 6 in support and 5 in opposition.
Okay, so it goes back to committee. Mr. Clerk?
Okay, that brings us to advancing resolution number 11 of 2023. That's a resolution to authorize the parish administrator to seek proposals for a traffic camera system to be operated on roads in the unincorporated areas of the parish and to otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Okay, Motion by Commissioner Johnson and second by Commissioner Gage Watts. Commissioner Johnson?
Yeah, this is basically giving administration to go out and seek proposals. The RFP, this particular process, you was passed out a example of basically 500 tickets per day for 12 days equals 6,000 tickets monthly, and how much the parish will benefit from that. If everybody paid over $650,000, if 70% paid $457,800. So this is, to me, it's a win-win situation for the parish. There's no upfront cost involved. I think the percentage of each one of the tickets is like 26% that organization gets, and the rest comes to the parish itself. There are some areas in our parish government that we do have some gaps, and this would be an easy way to fill some of those gaps without introducing taxes to the general public. That's all I have.
Okay, Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. Dr. Wilson, will you put in an inquiry to Sheriff Prater? I'd like to hear his opinion on this, since his deputies, I think, will be the ones hired or contracted to perform this. I just want to get his opinion. I think it's no, he won't be the one?
They won't be able to.
All right, that brings up more questions. I'll talk offline with Commissioner Johnson.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Thank you,
Commissioner
President.
Atkins, you finished? You
I'm
finished?
done. Thank you, President.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can I get a clarification on what did you just?
I was asking Dr. Wilson to get Sheriff Prater down here to speak on this, give us his opinion, since his deputies would be the ones contracted, and Commissioner Johnson said that would not be the case. It would be different personnel. So,
Okay. But I would still, Dr. Wilson, I'd still like to hear Sheriff Prater's view on this. I feel like we are expanding our scope into his area. Although these would be civil penalties, I still feel like we're moving into law enforcement, a component or an area which has historically been served by law enforcement, and I'm uncomfortable expanding into someone else's realm. So I would like to hear Sheriff Prater's idea. I can't argue with Commissioner Johnson's analysis of the business model. I mean, I think it would be a revenue generator, but I'm not sure the deal is worth the shuffle. I don't want to anger the sheriff in the process, and I don't want to step beyond our legal boundaries in the process. Although I think that Ms. Frazier has told us that it's not illegal for us to expand here. But I'm also concerned about the impact on our citizens and how they might react to this new form of policing, for lack of a better word. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Or Mr.
Commissioner
President.
Hopkins.
Yeah, that's the problem I have is that, we make the laws and as far as speed limits and things, and then it's up to the sheriff to enforce them. And we ought to stay out of the enforcement part of it. The other thing is, I've got the most roads by mileage in District 1. And we're going to build this off the backs of the people of District 1 if we're not careful. And, I just don't think, I don't like this type of thing. I think the state of Texas and the state of Minnesota and the state of Mississippi were smart enough to ban this stuff. They don't allow it because they tried it in places and it was a cluster, just like the cluster that came down here with Shreveport. It's all it does is cause a problem, so I can't support it. Not for my people, not for the parish as a whole. I don't think it's something we need to be doing. If we've got speed limit problems, he gave some deal in Caddo Parish we have more wrecks. Yeah, we probably do on interstates and city roads. Out in the parish, we don't have that much of a problem. So we do have some wrecks, but not that many. But I think they take numbers as a whole for the parish, but they're taking state roads and city roads. So I just, right at this time, I'm not going to support this. That's all.
Commissioner Gage Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am in full support of this resolution. During the presentation, I think that it was touched on several times that this is an additional tool for our law enforcement and one where we don't have to rely on the departments with shortages, like the city of Shreveport, like the parish of Caddo. These are not the same type of cameras that are being used because it, in addition, has manpower. So we're not just relying on the system. We are also having real eyes on the street that are not civilian eyes. When there are often situations that evolve in our communities, our civilians are not trained to help identify those who are violating the law. But here it gives us an additional set of eyes, an additional tool to use to address our issues. Hearing that we are #1 with fatalities in Caddo, I don't know if it's on my road or not, and it doesn't matter. I think it provides safer roads for our citizens, which is our priority. So again, I am in support of this resolution and moving it forward. Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tim, can you come up for a second? No, I heard something saying that we don't enforce certain things, but if I can remember right, under Public Works, Tim, don't we have someone that goes out and checks loads and makes sure that they're not overload for the road, overweight for the roads?
Yes, sir.
And that person issues citations?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So we're already doing that. So what y'all talking about is we shouldn't be doing that, but we already are doing that. This is nothing no different. They're on public roads, overweighted. They get stopped. They get issued citation. These people will be on the road speeding. They'll get stopped. Well, they won't get stopped, but they'll get a citation in the middle. He also mentioned that the cameras also have a technology in it that if a license plate is tagged for multiple tickets or stolen or some other major infraction, that once that camera picks it up, it then will go to the local law enforcement that they can now ding and know what that vehicle, the proximity of that vehicle is. So if you listen to what he said about Bethany, that wasn't in District 1. If my memory is right, that's in District 12, that they did one of the test runs. If you know about Highway 79, that's one way, that's a pipeline from Houston to Shreveport. All kind of stuff goes on that 59 to 79 highway. That's one way to cut that down. And we talk about crime. We talk about public safety. Well, this is one way that you can fight that behind the scenes. We don't have to always be standing on the corner when someone has died. We could be proactive by using a system that's in place that will do this. And it doesn't cost the parish any money. We're not talking about writing an ordinance to basically say that we got to pay for anything. Now, we'll probably have to write an ordinance to receive the money coming in, but we won't have to write the ordinance for paying money up front for equipment because all the equipment is through the company. This is no cost to us. But y'all want to talk about raising taxes to build some pods. Some people are. Yeah, some people are. Let's get it all out in the street. This is a way to raise revenue right here without taxing people. There's been many discussions about raising taxes to build pods, and I'm totally against it. But here's a way that we can raise revenue for the parish to do things to fill gaps that we have. The juvenile justice system is operating under budget and has been for years. There's ways to fill gaps that we got. We just talking about taking $500,000 or just put it back in committee, but that was a request of $500,000. Well, if you run these cameras for a month in a certain location, you got your money back already. And we can reinvest back into the community. I think, we get to the point where if it's $10,000, $15,000, let's do it. But when it gets to a certain dollar amount, we don't want to do it because it's too much money. And then when we got an opportunity to get money coming in, well, I don't know if I want to impose that on people. Well, if people are not breaking the law, they're not imposed on anything. Hotel motel tax. If you're not from Shreveport and staying in hotel motel, you're not imposed on that tax. is when you are using the hotels and the motels, then you will be taxed. If you're not speeding, you won't get a ticket. It's just that simple. And if you hit certain roads, most of them are traveled by people who are not even in this area. And when you talk about Bethany in 79, that's coming out of Texas. A lot of people coming out of Texas, straight out of Texas and Louisiana. So, I mean, let's be consistent on what we're doing. Don't just pick and choose because, well, we don't want to do that. That's under the sheriff. Well, the sheriff should also have deputies on the road checking for overweight vehicles. But we do that. And that wasn't a problem. So why should it be a problem to have this system out on the roads, which will free up the deputies to be dealing with things that's happening inside the city and inside the parish? Because crime does exist. We don't stay in Mayberry. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was going to make a motion to send this to a committee, but I guess, I don't know, this kind of came down today, and I don't know. My concern was the fees and all that other stuff, but the guy left, but I would like somebody to put me in touch with him, because I'd like to get some questions for him. Yeah, I'd like to run some questions by him, because I don't want folks who are not driving vehicles to be held responsible for. And that's what really stood out to his presentation to me, was talking about the owner is responsible for the vehicle, but the person who commits the offense should be responsible for the offense. Does that make any sense? That's what I'm thinking, is the person who commits the offense ought to be responsible for it, for the offense they commit. And that's where my concern comes in, that is that little piece right there. And if there's a way if he can give me some clarity on that, I'd have, but I'm okay with moving it forward at least today. But I don't know, there's just some questions that I have. And are we is this just an example of a fee schedule, or have y'all talked to this? Have y'all talked to him? Is this the fee schedule that y'all asked him to put together, or was this just something that just drew from?
He put that together for us.
So this is not okay. And he kept referring to when we create an ordinance. So y'all gonna do the RFP, then create the ordinance, or do we create the ordinance first and then y'all go ahead and issue the RFP? How would that work?
We would have to do the RFP first and then select the company, because the ordinance would have to be based on whatever model the company is selected and pulled.
Okay. And his company may not necessarily be the one to get it.
May not be.
Okay. Okay.
Is that it?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Carlton?
Yes, the only, and like you said, the gentleman is gone, but I had a couple of questions concerning the liability. That was my first question, because the thing is, again, with anything you do, there's normally some form of liability, some form. I don't know to what level, and again, that's a legal question that I won't even attempt to address at this time. But also the second question was time from violation to the auto owner, from the time that they actually get the ticket or get the flash or whatever they're doing. What's the time limit between? I mean, because the thing about it, I'm sitting here thinking, a person could get 5 or 6 tickets in a given week, depending on the how fast it's coming. I don't know, and what the process is from the time that they take it on the road to the person actually getting it at their home, I would assume.
That question has not been asked, but we'll put it down and we'll find out.
The insurance he has. But he will provide liability insurance. The vendor will provide liability insurance. Now, the second question, don't have an answer to, but the vendor will provide liability insurance.
Okay, Commissioner Epperson?
Call for the question on the motion.
Second.
Okay, the question has been called. Okay, it was motion by Commissioner Epperson and second by Commissioner Jackson. Let's vote. Who called for the question?
Mr. Carter? All right, and that motion carries with 10 in support, 1 in opposition, and 1 absent. So that brings us to the motion on the floor.
Okay, and that motion is to move this forward?
That motion is to advance this. That is a motion from Commissioner Johnson, seconded by Commissioner Gage Watts. This would advance this item to your Thursday agenda.
Okay, hopefully we'll have the questions resolved by then. Let's vote.
That motion does not carry. It has 5 in support, 6 in opposition, and 1 absent. So that brings us to advancing resolution number 12 of 2023. That's a resolution authorizing the execution of a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Louisiana Office of State Lands relative to improvements at Earl G. Williamson Park and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
Okay, okay, a motion by Commissioner Hopkins, second by Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Hopkins?
Is Mr. Wesley here so he can come up and explain? Okay.
I'm filling in for.
Okay, good deal.
Mr. Wesley, he's actually in Baton Rouge this morning.
All right, just explain what exactly this is doing.
Sure. In your capital outlay budget, there's a $1.3 million item for improvements at Earl G. Williamson Park. The parish is seeking to make an application through the Louisiana Office of State Parks to the U.S. Department of the Interior for what's called a Land and Water Conservation Fund grant. It is a 50% reimbursement grant. So the parish would get back $600 and something thousand out of our appropriation of $1.3 million once we complete the project. One of the requirements, the first resolution deals with the fact that one of the requirements is that the parish has to have control of the land that we're proposing the improvements on. One of the improvements is a new fishing pier that's going to be out in the lake. The lake itself is owned by the state of Louisiana. And so the state of Louisiana, through the Office of State Lands, has agreed to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with the parish to essentially lease the parish 20-something acres of the lake so that we can represent that we are in control of it. That's the first resolution. The second resolution is that the process requires that the governing authority adopt a resolution authorizing the application and stating that you have appropriated the funds, which the funds are in the capital outlay. So that's the second resolution. I'm just going ahead and addressing both resolutions because it is a package deal. So, questions?
I'm on board. Are you finished?
Yes, sir, I'm finished.
Commissioner Epperson?
Mr. Bernstein, you said the state, how much is the lease?
It's $1.
Pardon?
$1.
$1, okay.
They're essentially leasing it to us for free.
Okay. That's all I have, thank you.
Commissioner Atkins?
I'd like to in globo and advance resolutions number 12 and 13, since they're both dealing with the same issue.
12 and 13.
12 and 13, is that?
You mean 11.3
11.
Yeah, 11.3 and 11.4, which is
Right.
resolutions 12 and 13.
Second.
Okay, the motion and second to in globo 11.3, 11.4. Commissioner Chavez?
Thank you, President. Attorney Bernstein, I'm assuming you guys have done like an environmental study on the lake, like phase 1, phase 2. Are we leasing land for $1 for some water that we're gonna have a headache on later? Have we done our due diligence on guaranteeing these assets that we're leasing?
It still will continue to be state property. In other words, we're only gaining the right to put there what we're putting there.
Gotcha, okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thanks, President.
Okay. All right, if no one else, let's vote.
Commissioner Johnson. All right, that motion carries with 10 in support, none in opposition, and 2 absent. So that brings us now to advancing resolution number 14 of 2023. That's a resolution naming the community meeting hall at David Rains Community Center as the Ernestine Thompson Hall and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
Motion by Commissioner Johnson, seconded by Commissioner Todd Hopkins. Commissioner Johnson?
Yeah, this is a building that we built not too long ago at David Rains Center. Ms. Thompson has been working there over 50-some years. She was a staple in the community. She did a lot at that community center. Cooking was one of her passions, and that building gave her a commercial kitchen that she can actually go in and cook for the citizens in the MLK area. So this seemed to be name it after her, being the fact that it was built for services that she was doing.
Commissioner Epperson.
I'd like to Global 11.5 and 11.6.
Second.
Okay. I don't have a second. Oh, a second by Commissioner Jackson. Okay, Commissioner Gage Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say, Commissioner Johnson, this is a wonderful idea. We've been serving, well, I've been serving for the last 8 years on the Caddo Community Action Agency Board, and I would like to be added as a sponsor to honor Ms. Ernestine as well.
Okay, I would too. I've been knowing Ms. Thompson for years, probably before any of us got on here. And she was an excellent, very compassionate lady in what she did. She would hardly ever say no to anyone. So, again, I would like to be added. Commissioner Epperson.
Yes, sir. For those of you that, I've served on the board for 10 years, and 10 years as president of Caddo Community Action Agency. And one of my starring moments was in December. She would always cook, and if you haven't eaten gumbo or peach cobbler until you eat some of Miss Ernestine Thompson's gumbo and peach cobbler. So I'm going to give her a little bribe. I'm going to tell her we voted to change that name, but she's going to have to cook us some gumbo and some peach cobbler. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Carlton.
Yes, I just wanted to be added to 11-6 with Commissioner Epperson on the Proclaiming Navy Week as well.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
that's coming
point of
next.
information, if I might.
Commissioner Epperson.
Yes, sir, on 11-6. Mr. Clerk, you know, we're going to make that proclamation tomorrow, so what this will be contingent upon approval for Thursday, or would?
Yes, you'll go ahead and present it prior to the final adoption of it. And we'll word it so that sounds appropriate.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we're ready to vote on 11 point, what is that? 11.5. And then you in the global 11.62, or was that back? Okay, let's
This is in
vote.
Globo and adopting 11.5 and 11.6. I mean,
Okay.
Globo and advancing, I'm sorry.
All right, 11.5 and 11.6, let's vote.
All right, that motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. That brings us to the next item on your agenda, which is advancing the removal of Ed Angel from the Caddo Fire District Number 1. And this is a removal retroactive to March 3rd, 2022.
Okay. All right, I had a little sidebar. Where are we, Mr. Clerk?
It's 11.7.
Okay. All right, been motioned by Commissioner Johnson and second by Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, I want to englobe 11.7 and 11.8 because they go together. And basically, when we appointed Mr. Casey to the fire district, the wording wasn't concrete enough for Mr. Angel. He decided to stay on the board. So this right now will make it more concrete for him to be removed.
Okay. Motion to englobe 11.7 and 11.8. Let's vote.
All right, that motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. That brings us now to 11.9, which is advance authorization of administration to transfer $50,000 in ARPA funds from vaccine incentive to summer employment program.
Motion by Commissioner Jackson, second by Commissioner John Paul Young. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, Mr. President, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to global, what is this, 11 point, what is that, 9? And 11.10 at this time.
11.9, 11.10?
Yes.
Okay.
You have a problem with 11?
Oh, and 11. I'm sorry, I just saw we was doing each one that are related. And
Okay,
11.
it's been motion and second to in global, 11.9, 10, and 11.
And I'll speak to.
Okay,
Yeah,
Commissioner Jackson.
I didn't think that this was for interns, so can we get together on that one?
Sure.
I didn't think it was for interns. I thought it was for just our regular summer employment, but
Okay, I
it's
just
good.
misunderstood.
Get together offline on it. I think we'll be fine, but if we need to change something here, we can. Appreciate it. And those organizations for the Housing Trust Fund will be here on Thursday to present. That's what we discussed in committee today.
Okay, no other questions? Let's vote.
Advance it to Thursday.
To advance to Thursday.
And Mr. President.
All right, that motion carries with 11 in support, none in opposition, and 1 absent. To advance those 3 items, that is all of your new business for today, and that brings us now to communication committee reports.
Commissioner Atkins?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a quick question. There's been some discussion of the intern program, the summer intern program, and the summer regular employee program. What's the difference in those 2 programs?
Yes, sir. The summer employment within the organization, we use school-aged kids, high schoolers. And the program we ran through Goodwill, we have college-level students go through that program.
I'm sorry, so the intern...
College-level students.
That's good, that's the intern
Yes.
program?
Yes.
Okay, so the high school age is the regular summer program, the intern is for
Yes, sir.
college students?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, Commissioner Gage Watts.
Thank you, Mr. President. On Thursday, I asked that all commissioners wear something purple, and while you're at it, make sure that you reach into your communities to find at least 2 women that you would like to honor at our meeting on Thursday. Thank you.
Thursday.
Could you send us a memo?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Commissioner Young.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to tell my colleagues who put the traffic camera item on our agenda that I recognize merit on both sides of those arguments. I didn't vote to move forward today, but I think it would be good to discuss it in a committee. And if we could have a longer discussion in a committee that was a little more free-flowing, I think we might be able to change some minds and reach some consensus on that. And I hope that will come to a committee in the future. Thank you.
It's been to a committee.
Oh, I wasn't at that committee then.
Commissioner Epperson.
Yes, sir. All members of the Public Safety Ad Hoc Committee, please take note that there will be a Public Safety Ad Hoc Committee meeting on April 3rd, 1 o'clock p.m. April 3rd, 1 o'clock p.m. Please adjust your schedule accordingly so we can start on time. And agenda to be forthcoming. And Ms. Watts, I want you to read my from the commissioner's desk that I wrote about women Thursday with those women down here. Thank you.
You got it.
Commissioner Epperson, we still got that Veterans Committee tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
10 o'clock?
Yes, sir.
All right, the only thing I was remiss earlier in my comments, I wanted to recognize 2 important ladies as far as our Clean the Queen, our Queensboro cleanup, who actually is part of the what they call the Empire Queens in that area. It's a group of ladies that's in that area that does a lot for Queensboro, and they were the one who actually initiated. They just asked us to come on board, and I appreciate the commissioner chipping in too. Those funds came in very handy to help feed some of the people who were out there, among other things. And they're a set of twins. We had 3 set of twins out there on Saturday that was cleaning up. Cammie and Tammy Wright were the 2 ladies who actually initiated. Both of them worked for Walmart. One of them just had a big Mardi Gras deal out there at the Walmarts out on Burton Coombs. But they are very, very active in the community, and that's what we need to get people back active in their community. Cleaning up, a lot of people came out and started cleaning up their own property after seeing about 100 people on the street working, so it works. Again, want to commend those 2 ladies. Mr. Clerk, let's see, I still got some people who want to communicate. Commissioner Gage Watts, or he's old?
Those just haven't been cleared yet.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Commissioner Epperson.
Mr. Chairman, you going to bring those ladies down for Thursday? That you can recognize them Thursday?
That would be nice.
For the women thing?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll put that on there and see if they can get off and do it, because they work for Walmart.
I bet Walmart would let them get off of that.
Okay. Okay, with that in mind, Mr. Clerk?
We've received no requests for citizens' comments, late arrivals at this point.
Move adjourned.
All right. Meeting adjourned. 5 o'clock.